Everyone, I'm Pastor Britt Strohecker, and we're talking about the creative problem-solving process. And we're utilizing the creation story in Genesis chapter 1 as a model to set up a series of steps that we can use to overcome the problems we encounter in life and also overcome the sins that we find ourselves caught up in. So today we're going to talk about step 5, but before we talk about step 5, let's review quickly what we've already been through. Day 1 of creation is where God created light and separated the light from the darkness. And that's what we need when we find ourselves or realize we have a problem. Or realize I'm caught up in sin for some reason, or I'm caught up in a behavior that I know is not right and I need to get away from. So we're in darkness. We're formless, we're empty, there's a lot of times there's chaos. That's where God finds us when we're caught up in sin or in a problem situation. So all we need to do at that point is ask God to shed His light on the situation and provide a light at the end of the tunnel so that we can start making progress to overcoming the problem and overcoming the sin. That's step 1, day 1. Day 2 is when God separated the waters above from the waters beneath. And step 2 in our creative problem-solving process requires us to step back, take a look at the problem and the sin so that we can study them, analyze them, and see them for what they are. And this step requires complete honesty. We have to lay everything out on the table, see it for what it is, understand what's causing it, what's the root cause, and what's triggering it, how are we getting triggered to start this sinful behavior or get caught up in sinful behavior, and how are we going to handle this? How are we going to deal with this? Are we willing to deal with this? Are we still rationalizing and making excuses? We need to be honest at this step to see what it is that's creating an issue for us and how God will be able to help us get away or get out of this situation. So that's step 2. And again, I can't stress enough that this requires complete honesty, because if you can't be honest with yourself, then how do you expect to be honest with God? So, step 3 is day 3 of the creation story, and that's where God caused the waters to recede and gather together into seas and let the dry land appear. And on the land, He grew all kinds of plant life that produced herbs and fruit. And as we know, plant life is essential on this planet in the oxygen generating process and also providing food for the animal life and the human life that is here on earth. And God basically set an environment up where life could thrive with resources that would be essential to help life thrive. And that's what step 3 involves. Step 3 involves allowing God to remove us from the sea of emotions that are bringing us into the problem or perpetuating the problem or the sin in any way. Take us out of that sea of emotions and set us on solid footing, solid ground, so that we have a firm base to stand upon so that we can move forward towards solving the problem and overcoming the sin. And in this step, this is where God will reveal to us the resources that He has made available to us to help us learn from our mistakes and overcome the situation. He gave us His Bible, His Word, which contains His wisdom and truth on how we take care of these situations and issues. He also gave us prayer, where we can talk to Him. We can speak with Him and converse with Him and talk the issues over with Him so that He knows that we know what the problem is doing to us, that we know what the sin is doing to us, and that we can acknowledge that we're wrong in the situation, and we want to allow Him to help us in the situation. Another resource that He may bring to us is other people who have experienced similar situations, who have a testimony that they can provide to you and talk to you about how they dealt with the situation and how God helped them deal with the situation. And this is what we talked about the other day, where, you don't have to face your problems on your own. You don't have to do this on your own. A single-stranded cord is not as strong as a triple-stranded cord. And God knows there's strength in numbers, and He's going to be willing to send other believers your way that He knows will be able to help you. You just need to trust Him to provide you with those resources. So that's step 3. Yesterday we talked about step 4, day 4 of creation. And that's where God set the sun, the moon, and stars in the sky and set up time. The sun, moon, and stars mark off days, weeks, months, years, seasons. It's all God's timing that He's controlling the universe with. He's set the wheels of motion going when it comes to time. And this is crucial in our problem-solving process. We live in a touchscreen society where we want answers like yesterday and we want resolutions like yesterday. But it doesn't work that way with God. He's not a touchscreen type person. He is one that wants to make sure that you are equipped and empowered to learn from your mistakes so that when you face similar situations in the future, or when you come across that temptation to sin in the future, the learning that you have gained in this problem-solving process will help you face down the problem or face down the sin when you encounter it in the future. And trust me, if we encountered it one time and it impacted us or hurt us in any way, don't you think that Satan's taken note of that and is going to use it again against you to see if you will fall? See if you can not follow what God has taught you, or maybe even try to discredit God in your eyes for some way or some reason. You know how Satan works. He's trying to discourage us in our faith, where God wants us to grow our relationship with Him. And one of the things He likes to use is when we run into a problem or run into sin, He does not see that as a hopeless situation, or He doesn't look at us like, man, you're unworthy. Why are you coming to me now? You should know better. If you think you know me, why don't you know not to do this stuff? God's not like that at all. God sees every problem, every sin as an opportunity to help us grow, to refine us in the fire. We talked about that the other day, where He's going to refine us in the fire, bring the impurities up to the top, skim them off, and refine us like purest gold. We're a work in progress. As long as we're on this planet, living and breathing in this lifetime, we are a work in progress for God. So He wants us to learn from our mistakes, but He wants us to take the time to do so. And why not take advantage of that? We're talking about God, who made everything that we see, everything that exists, and is in control of it all. So He knows something about everything. That's an awesome resource, like we said the other day. But He's not too busy for us. We ask Him for help, and He's like, yes, I'll be glad to help you. Why? Because He loves us unconditionally. And it doesn't matter what we've done, who we are, or how we're approaching Him at that time. He knows that in our heart we are seeking His help, and that's a situation will capture His attention. He'll be glad to stop doing what He's doing to help us out at that time to get us through the problem. But His ultimate goal is to help us grow from the experience, gain some wisdom and knowledge from the experience, and be a better person and a stronger person so that when that issue comes up again down the road, we can face it down knowing that God is God and that He helped us before and He'll help us again. Plus, we're a little smarter, we're a little stronger, we don't have to fall for Satan's tricks. So we have to trust in God, and we need to be patient with Him to allow Him to do stuff in His timing. So that brings us to step 5. And we want to read on now in day 5 of the creation story. And this is in Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 20. And God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every sort of fish and every kind of bird. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Let the fish multiply and fill the oceans. Let the birds increase and fill the earth." This all happened on the 5th day. So now I know a lot of you are thinking, okay, what do fish and birds have to do with solving problems? Well, this is step 5. We're already on our way to resolving the problem, but along the way, we have to have an awareness that there's going to be things that are said, things that are done, or things that happen that will look like setbacks to us, or will injure us in some way, or kind of discourage us in some way, where we might start thinking, maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe God's not going to help me with this situation. Don't let yourself fall in that trap, because what is Satan doing? He's trying to get you back into that sea of emotion, and he's surrounding you with predators. He's surrounding you with the fish. So you're either going to sink or swim. Now, if you're on God's side and you are trusting in God, my guess is, and my knowledge, and I know for sure, you're going to swim. But if you start listening to Satan, and you start looking over your shoulder, and you start looking at the predators and the people that Satan's surrounding you with that are trying to discourage you or trying to hold you back in that sin or that problem, then you're going to start having problems where you might start sinking and might start drowning again. So sometimes when we're going through this problem-solving process, we're going to have to swim with the sharks. It's going to happen. It's a fact of life. But don't be discouraged. God is still in control. There's going to be setbacks along the way, and all Satan's trying to do with the setbacks is make you backslide back into the situation that you're trying to get out of. So you got to swim, and sometimes you got to swim harder than others. But the key is you got to swim back to the shore. And then what about the birds? Well, sometimes God is going to give us an opportunity to show us that we're capable and more capable than what we give ourselves credit for. He wants us to spread our wings and fly. He wants us to take the high road in the situations and not be drugged down into the low road. And why is that? Well, he knows that we're going to have our own critics. He knows that we're going to have enemies. He knows that there are agents of Satan that are going to try to pull us down, and that there's going to be people that take shots at us. But if they want to take shots at us, if we're soaring up to the heights of God, then when they want to take those shots at us, they're going to have to aim at the sky. And it's going to be hard to hit us. And it's going to be hard to find us. Why? Because we're going to be in the hands of God, overcoming the situation. Not dragging around in the mud, not being shot down, not being discouraged, not tumbling back down the hill that we are climbing up on. God's going to make sure that we continue climbing and starting to soar towards our success. And he's going to try to encourage us all along the way. And we need to be determined. We need to be determined. We need to spread those wings and fly. We need to put a lot of effort into this, knowing that we're better than what we're giving ourselves credit for, and that God has every assurance and has every confidence in us that we're capable of handling the situation. And how does he know that? He knows us better than we know ourselves, because he's our creator, and he knows everything that's in our heart, everything that's in our mind. He knows the words that we're going to say even before we say them. So God is not going to let us drown, and God is going to lift us up, not tear us down. So if we're in the problem-solving process and we're feeling that something's tearing us down or bringing us down, we need to be aware that that's Satan working against us. So that's the time where we got to swim or fly. Whatever God calls us to do, we need to keep making forward progress regardless of what we're facing. Don't let Satan tear you down. Don't let him discourage you. He's the father of lies. Jesus said that when Satan lies, he's only speaking his native language, because that's all he knows how to do, is be deceitful, deceptive, and lie. So when we're resolving a problem, we need to stay determined and focused on God. That's the only way we're going to swim. That's the only way we're going to fly. Now tomorrow, we'll talk about step 6. But I pray that these first 5 steps are starting to make sense to you and starting to sink deep within your heart, so that you know that God loves you unconditionally and doesn't want you to continue living your life in the problems and the sin that you're experiencing that are making you feel terrible. That's not why he put you here. So if you are one of those people that are in a problem or in sin, just think about how it's making you feel right now, because if you trust in God and take these steps to resolve the problem, you'll never have to feel this way again. Until next time, remember, nothing in this world is more important than the love of Jesus Christ. Talk to you soon.